When we were kids, Oscar told me I'd be his little follower for life. But when we grew up, he found his goddess and warned me coldly, "Lily, can you stop clinging to me for the rest of your life? Stay away from me, just seeing you annoys me." My father, afraid of angering Oscar, quickly sent me abroad. Years later, out of nowhere, Oscar suddenly asked about me. My father assured him confidently, "Don't worry, Oscar, I've promised her to someone else. She won't bother you again." For the first time, the calm and composed Oscar completely lost his composure in public. Chapter 01. Oscar was born a rich young master. My family was just one of the many small ones that survived under his family's shadow. The only reason I got close to Oscar was thanks to my ancestors' good fortune. My great-grandfather and Oscar's great-grandfather had once saved each other's lives. They even built houses side by side on a piece of land blessed by good feng shui. That land later became a luxury villa district. Both houses were rebuilt into grand, modern mansions. So from the moment I was born, I was Oscar's neighbor. As the saying goes, the one closest to the water gets the moon first, while the other families fought tooth and nail just to get near him. I was already his little follower. I liked being his follower. Staying close to Oscar meant his family would keep supporting my father's business. Dad always told me, "Stay by Oscar's side. Be obedient. Learn to read his mood. Don't ever make him angry. Only then will his family keep taking care of us." My rivals were many. Every family wanted to send their daughters to Oscar. Oscar didn't reject anyone. But my place beside him was unshakable. Every time those girls tried to bully me, Oscar would drive them away. The most recent one to be exiled was Emma. We were on a trip to the Maldives. Emma lounged on a beach chair in her bikini, lazily basking in the sun. "Lily, my juice is gone." I immediately understood, smiling sweetly. "Sure thing, I'll get it right away." When I came back with the juice, I heard her whispering to Oscar, "Why do you always bring Lily along?" Oscar sounded indifferent. "She wants to come, so I brought her." Heh. Oscar always took me with him, from childhood until now, happily. I set the 2 glasses of juice on the little table between them. "Here you go. Enjoy." Emma shot me a vicious glare. I loved that look. The "I hate you but can't do anything about it" kind. We were classmates, so I knew exactly what kind of person she was. When she quietly ditched me during the sightseeing ride, I wasn't even surprised. But being left alone in a foreign country, not knowing the language, without a phone, and walking for hours without finding the hotel, that was terrifying. Finally, I squatted by the roadside and cried. Tears blurred my vision. Then, through the blur, a lollipop appeared before my eyes. Instantly, joy burst through my tears. Oscar! Just by seeing the lollipop, I knew it was him. When I was little and often cried home alone, Oscar would always come over to comfort me with a lollipop. Back at the hotel, as expected, Emma was gone. She had officially entered Oscar's blacklist. Her family's business was as good as doomed. Girls come and go, but Lily stays forever. He. I was so proud, thinking I could follow Oscar for the rest of my life. But reality proved I was far too naive. Chapter 02. After college, Oscar set his eyes on Gloria, the heiress of a Hong Kong tycoon family. Her family's wealth matched Oscar's perfectly. Her looks, figure, education, background, everything about her was flawless. She was the real goddess. Unlike other women, Gloria didn't show the slightest interest in Oscar. When Oscar reached out to her, for once, things didn't go as smoothly as they always had. Her rejection intrigued him, igniting his desire to conquer her completely. Oscar began his full-scale pursuit, lavishing her with luxury watches, designer bags, and sports cars. But Gloria remained unmoved. Then he changed tactics. He began showing up early to buy her breakfast, inviting her to lunch, personally arranging everything in her schedule. Meticulous, devoted, tireless. Just like I used to be with him, I was always by Oscar's side. His shadow since childhood. Gloria, too, had a follower, her cousin Sandra. That evening, Sandra and I stood face to face outside a high-end French restaurant, waiting for our respective masters to finish dinner. when Gloria and Oscar finally stepped out. She looked effortlessly radiant, her smile soft and poised. "Thank you for dinner," she said, her tone polite but distant. "I can see your sincerity, but it's still not enough." Sandra threw me a middle finger, her face twisted with disgust. Before prancing off behind Gloria, Oscar frowned but said nothing. After all, Sandra was Gloria's cousin. Gloria truly was born to shine. Even her hair seemed to shimmer with allure. I tore my gaze away from her graceful silhouette and looked at Oscar. His eyes were still fixed on her retreating figure, dark and burning with obsession. That weekend, Oscar arranged a yacht trip and invited Gloria, but she showed up with a man. Oscar's fake smile froze on his face as he asked, "And who is he?" Gloria's voice was gentle and clear, like spring sunlight melting snow. Even as a woman, I found myself enchanted. "This is Marco, my childhood friend," she said softly. "We often hang out together." For the rest of the trip, Oscar's face was a storm cloud. Every word he spoke dripped with sarcasm. When we were leaving, I overheard Gloria say sweetly, "Oscar, don't do to others what you don't want done to yourself. If you can have female friends, why can't I have male ones? Seems a bit double standard, doesn't it?" Oscar froze for a moment, then glanced toward me, deep in thought. After Gloria left, he strode toward the parking lot. "Oscar, Oscar, wait for me." I ran after him, calling his name. He didn't look back. When I finally caught up and touched his sleeve, he violently shook me off. "Can't you stop following me all the time?" I stumbled backward, stunned. The look in his eyes, irritated, resentful, full of disgust, cut deeper than any insult. But I said nothing. After all, I never had the right to stand beside him. The privilege to be near him was his to grant, and his to take away. I stood frozen, watching his back disappear into the distance, feeling an empty ache open up inside my chest. Chapter 03. The next day, Oscar didn't wait for me to go to school together. At the campus, I ran into Sandra. Her face was full of schadenfreude. "Lily, your good days are coming to an end." I was still upset about being left behind by Oscar last night and didn't want to deal with her. But Sandra wouldn't let me go. She grabbed my collar and shoved me hard to the ground. Frowning, I looked up at her and snapped, "What's your problem?" She crouched down, looking down at me from above, and patted my face with that arrogant smirk. "Here's a warning, stay away from Oscar. He's the future son-in-law my family has set its eyes on." I stared at her seriously. "Can your family spare some business for mine, then?" Sandra froze. "What?" "Exactly what I said." She rolled her eyes. "Keep dreaming." I stood up and, without hesitation, slapped her across the face. Damn, did she really think everyone was like Oscar? That she could climb on top of me and act superior? "If your family can't give us business, then don't tell me what to do. You're ugly enough as it is, stop imagining things." Sandra went crazy, covering her face. She glared at me viciously and lunged. I didn't hold back. Sidestep. Kick, one smooth motion. With a loud thud, she fell flat on her face. That sound alone cleared up half of last night's frustration. I took a deep breath and walked off to class. After class, I was planning to find Oscar, but to my surprise, he came to find me first. Seeing him at the door, my heart leapt with joy. I quickly packed my books and ran to him. "Oscar!" He didn't answer, didn't even pat my head like before. His expression looked dark. Was he still angry from last night? But I hadn't even done anything wrong. He glanced at me briefly and said only one thing, "Come with me." I followed him obediently. We were heading toward the art department, Gloria's department. Even before we reached the dance studio, I heard the sound of sobbing. A bad feeling crept up my spine. Gloria was comforting Sandra, who was crying miserably in her arms. Oscar led me forward and said curtly, "Apologize." My eyes widened. He was defending her? She started it. I protested angrily. Oscar ignored my words, his tone cold and firm. "Lily, apologize." "I won't." It was the first time in my life that I defied him. He clearly didn't expect it. His face darkened with anger. "If you won't apologize, Then don't ever appear in front of me again. I stared at him, stunned. He used to defend me whenever others bullied me, but now, he'd become the one hurting me the most. I turned to glare at Gloria and Sandra. Gloria looked a little uneasy and said softly to Oscar, "Oscar, it's just a small fight between girls. No need to be so serious. But maybe next time, don't hit her in the face. Girls all care about their looks." Her words sounded gentle, but they stabbed like needles, a subtle accusation that I had ruined Sandra's face. As expected, Oscar's frown deepened. There was no trace of compromise in his eyes. I understood then. He was doing this to please Gloria. Otherwise, it might slow down his pursuit. Tears welled up in my eyes, and humiliation burned on my face. After several minutes of silence, I forced out a reluctant apology. "I'm sorry." Sandra instantly stopped crying and lifted her head. "You made me look like this. And a simple sorry is enough?" Only then did I notice her face, swollen and bruised like a pig's head. I blinked in shock. Had I really hit her that hard? "Your face." Before I could finish, slap. Sandra smacked me hard across the cheek. It burned instantly. Blood rushed to my head. I lifted my hand to hit back, but Oscar caught my wrist. I struggled, furious. "Oscar, she hit me." "Good, now you're even." I froze. The boy who had protected me all my life now looked at me like a stranger, his brows furrowed, his eyes full of disappointment and disapproval. I yanked my hand free and ran away, tears blurring everything before me. Chapter 04. Oscar and I fell into a cold war. He no longer waited for me when going to school. Each morning, I could only see the faint trail of his car's exhaust disappearing down the road. At school, he deliberately avoided me, as if afraid I might cling to him again, so I decided to stop trying. Peace and silence were better than rejection. My father soon noticed. For several weekends in a row, I hadn't gone out once. He grew increasingly worried. At last, he couldn't hold it in anymore. "Lily, did you have a fight with Oscar?" I stayed silent, staring at the table. He sighed and spoke in a low, heavy tone. "Since about a month ago, our business has hit one obstacle after another. Deals we'd already sealed were suddenly canceled without explanation. If this continues, we won't even be able to keep up appearances. Maybe you could try talking to Oscar? See what's going on?" I looked at his graying hair, at the deep worry lines etched into his face, and felt my heart tighten painfully. When my father took over the company, it was already a sinking ship, but for the sake of family honor, he had to hold it together no matter what. All these years, I had played the obedient shadow by Oscar's side, because every time I saw my father bowing and flattering those powerful people, my chest filled with guilt. If pleasing Oscar could bring peace to our home, could allow my father to stand tall even once, then what harm was there in me swallowing a bit of pride? If I didn't go to him first, Oscar would never seek me out. He never had. The only time he ever came to me on his own was to scold me for someone else's sake. Monday, I returned to campus, pacing anxiously outside Oscar's department office. 4 weeks. The news had been full of him and Gloria, their dates, their photos, everywhere. I didn't even know in what capacity I could face him anymore. Then a mocking voice interrupted my thoughts. "Well, if it isn't Miss Lily herself?" That shrill, taunting tone could belong to no one but Emma. She had been doing very well lately. Oscar's family was favoring hers, their business booming, her entire family rising in status. Once upon a time, anyone who bullied me would be blacklisted by Oscar. But now, he really wasn't the same man anymore. "What's the matter?" she sneered. "Came to see Oscar? Some people just don't know their place. A little lapdog thinking she can climb her way up to become a phoenix. Too bad, princes are meant for princesses." Her voice dripped with malice, each word scraping my nerves. I looked at her coldly. "And you? What are you supposed to be? A chicken or a crow?" If I couldn't be a phoenix, then what made her think she could? Did she really think she was fit to stand beside him? "You." My words stunned her, and for a moment, her face twisted with rage. Then she gave a short, mocking laugh. "Maybe not a phoenix, but at least I'm friends with the crown princess. Some people though, are just destined to be cannon fodder. You'll see, you'll be thrown out of the capital soon enough. With that, she crossed her arms and walked away with an exaggerated sway of her hips. Thrown out of the capital? Did she mean me? Emma, friends with the crown princess? My mind flashed to what Sandra had said before. It all fit together. Emma must have whispered something to Gloria. In the end, I didn't see Oscar that day. He had gone with Gloria to Hong Kong. It didn't matter. His mother's 50th birthday was coming up. He would definitely be there. Chapter 05. The weekend arrived. Politicians, business magnates, and every influential name in the city came to celebrate Oscar's mother's 50th birthday. I scanned the ballroom but didn't see Oscar or Gloria. After Mr. and Mrs. Grant, Oscar's parents, gave their speeches, the opening dance began. The bright chandeliers dimmed, replaced by cascading lights that painted the floor in colors. Then, under the shifting glow, the perfect couple appeared in the center of the dance floor. The music started. The two of them moved gracefully, a handsome man and a beautiful woman, gliding like a dream. When the dance ended, applause thundered across the room. They bowed, smiled, and left the floor together. The crowd was delighted. I followed them quietly, hoping for a chance to ask Oscar whether he had intentionally interfered with my family's business. As I reached the upper gallery, I froze. Oscar and Gloria were locked in a passionate kiss. My eyes widened, my entire body turning to stone. When I finally regained my senses, I ducked behind a wooden door, trembling, their muffled breaths, their whispers, the sound of lips meeting. Every note sliced through the air. After what felt like forever, the sounds faded. Oscar handed Gloria a glass of red wine. They leaned against the railing, speaking softly to each other. "When is that male friend of yours finally going to stay away from you?" he asked. Gloria twirled the wine in her glass, smiling faintly. "You're so bad. You can have your female friends, but my male friend can't stay near me?" Oscar leaned close, whispering something into her ear. I couldn't hear it. All I caught was Gloria's playful tone. "Well, that depends on your performance." They lingered there, wrapped in warmth, before finally leaving the gallery. I stepped out from behind the door, feeling like my soul had been dunked into ice water. For the first time, I knew I might really never have a place by Oscar's side again. But what about my family? What about our company? I went downstairs, dazed. Sandra, Emma, and Margot raised their glasses at me with mocking smiles. I couldn't stand it. I turned and fled to the restroom, gasping for air before the mirror. Then a familiar voice came from the doorway. "Do you know why your family became a thorn in Gloria's side?" Emma leaned lazily against the frame, smirking. "I just happened to tell Gloria that your family once had a childhood engagement with Oscar's. Her family needs the Grants as a stepping stone to expand their network in the capital. Oscar is their key target. You'd better step aside while you still can. The Glorias deal with both the underworld and the upper class. You don't want to cross them." A childhood engagement? My heart jolted. When did that ever happen? I looked up to question her, but Emma was already gone. I returned to the hall. Oscar was speaking to some guests. Gloria wasn't there. I hurried toward him. I just wanted to explain, to tell him I never schemed, that I only wanted peace for our families. Chapter 06. But before I could reach him, Sandra stepped in front of me. "Hey, little shadow, where do you think you're going?" "None of your business. Move. Careful how you talk to me," she sneered. "Want me to make you crawl again like last time?" "You framed me on purpose." Sandra smirked. "That's right, I did. So what? You're just my sister's contrast piece, her foil. As long as she exists, Oscar will always take our side." I laughed coldly. "You talk like you're the one Oscar loves. Just a cousin." Yet she acted so untouchable. Anger flashed in her eyes. She glanced behind me, then stepped closer, almost pressing against me. "Move," I said sharply, irritation flaring. Something cold flickered in her gaze, and in the next second, our positions switched. Sandra stumbled backward, straight into the towering pyramid of wine glasses. Before I could grab her, she crashed into it with a shattering crash. Crimson wine splashed everywhere. The sound of breaking glass silenced the entire ballroom. "Lily," Sandra cried, tears streaming down her face. Why do you always have to pick on me? What have I ever done to you? Her voice rang out pitifully. Dozens of eyes turned toward me. It wasn't me, I stammered. Oscar strode over, frowning. I rushed forward, grabbing his sleeve. Oscar. She fell by herself. It wasn't me. Gloria helped Sandra up while the family doctor came to check her arm. Gloria's brows knit in a gentle frown. She glanced at Oscar, hesitant to speak, but her silence said everything. Oscar pulled his arm out of my grasp. Lily, can't you just stay away from me? Stop making trouble and forcing me to clean up your messes. No, it's not like that. They're ganging up on me. They said our families had a childhood betrothal. And that's why Gloria's been targeting me. Oscar's face darkened. They said you had feelings for me. I didn't believe it. But hearing those words from your own mouth just proved them right. My head snapped toward Emma. Her smug smile gleamed like a knife. Gloria and Sandra both watched me. Amused. Triumphant. I fell right into their trap. Then Oscar's mother came out, smiling gracefully to ease the tension. Lily, dear, I've always treated you like my own daughter. You and Oscar are as close as real siblings. My parents bowed deeply to Oscar's family. Lily is still young and ignorant. We'll discipline her properly. Sorry for the trouble, but I didn't care about their apologies. I only wanted to know what Oscar thought. He turned and began walking after Gloria. Desperate. I grabbed the hem of his jacket. Oscar. He turned back, his eyes cold as frost. Lily, can't you just stop following me your entire life? Stay away from me. I'm sick of even seeing you. The killing chill in his eyes made my fingers go numb. I let go. He glanced at me one last time, then walked away toward Gloria. The ballroom buzzed with whispers and laughter, but to me, it felt utterly silent. I stood frozen, as if locked inside a block of ice. Chapter 07. Ever since Oscar publicly expressed his disgust toward me at the banquet, my family's business has only gone further downhill. My father was running himself ragged. My mother was constantly on edge. I still wanted to try, to speak to Oscar, to ask for his help, to save what little hope we had left. But now, I couldn't even get close to him. I waited outside his department, squatted near his house, tried to book an appointment through his assistant. Nothing worked. I couldn't even catch a glimpse of a single strand of his hair. Once again, I went home empty-handed. On my way back, Sandra, Emma, and a few of their little followers blocked my path. I had no energy to argue. I just wanted to walk past. But they wouldn't let me. I turned a cold, expressionless gaze toward Sandra. Move. Sandra crossed her arms, smirking with open mockery. No, what can you do about it? She gave her cronies a meaningful look, and a few of them stepped forward, hands already reaching toward me. Anger burned in my chest. Get lost, I shouted. They ignored me completely. Instead, they got rougher, when one of them shoved me hard enough that I nearly fell again. My patience snapped. My eyes went red. I'm warning you, I hissed. Leave, now. Don't push your luck. Sandra let out a mocking laugh. Oh, I'm so scared. Go on. Girls, let's see what happens if we piss off Miss Lily. Her taunt unleashed them. Hands pulled at my hair, tugged at my clothes, shoved me back and forth like a ball being kicked around. Fury flooded through me. I grabbed the wrist of one of them, twisted hard. Crack. A scream followed. Then I kicked another in the stomach, tripped two more, and caught the face of the next one, slapping her left and right until she fell. When the last of them went down crying, I turned to face Sandra and Emma, two spoiled heiresses. But neither of them knew what kind of girl I truly was. When I was young, because I was always with Oscar. Some kidnappers once targeted me to extort his family. After that, Oscar and I trained in martial arts together. That's why, back at the banquet, he believed so easily that I could have beaten Sandra. Because I could. Wait, no. If Sandra knew how capable I was, then she planned this. She knew exactly what she was provoking. A chill crawled up my spine. Something was wrong. Suddenly, Sandra stumbled backward. She hit the ground hard, clutching her stomach, her face turning pale. Brother-in-law. She whimpered weakly. Help me, brother-in-law? My head snapped up, following her gaze. I met a pair of cold, dark eyes. Oscar. I froze. There was no point defending myself now. The scene spoke for itself. Gloria ordered her people to take Sandra and Emma away. Oscar turned to leave, but after a few steps, he stopped. He looked back, just enough for me to see his profile under the fading light. Lily, he said quietly. I never really knew who you were. The words hit harder than any slap. Something caught in my throat. Pain, sharp and choking, rose all at once. I wanted to speak, but no sound came out. Tears blurred my vision, and my chest tightened until I could barely breathe. I staggered home, empty, weightless, like a wandering ghost, in my dark room. It felt as though every ounce of strength had been drained from my body. I fell asleep, and didn't wake up for an entire day and night. Chapter 08. Early the next morning, I drifted downstairs like a ghost. The whole villa was dark and empty. Not a single light on, not a sound of life. I went to get a drink of water, but the water dispenser was already empty. My parents were nowhere to be found. I sat on the sofa, and tears welled up in my eyes out of sheer helplessness. Then, a faint sound came from the maid's room. I turned toward it. Monica, our housekeeper, stood there with a suitcase in hand, looking back at the house again and again as if she couldn't bear to leave. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, like she just spotted her last hope. Miss Lily, please, she begged. Could you talk to the master and mistress for us? We don't want to be dismissed. Even if they lower our pay, or don't pay us at all, it's fine. We've worked here for so many years. I can't bear to leave. I believe your family will get through this. Her words poured out nonstop. But my mind was spinning. After a long silence, I rasped, my voice hoarse. Dismissed? Hard times? Monica wiped at her eyes. Sir and Madam haven't slept for days trying to secure investment. Some of the products had issues. They're facing massive compensation claims. Only then did I realize how completely our world had fallen apart. I grabbed her hand. Please, don't go yet. Wait for me. My throat tightened. Let me think of something. In the end, she stayed, but the household had already reached the brink. I handed her all the money I had left, asking her to take care of things at home as best she could. Then I went to find my parents. They were standing outside our company building, which now looked half abandoned, surrounded by an angry mob. Shouting filled the air. You'd better give us an explanation. My daughter died after eating your spicy strips. Yes, your snacks poisoned my son. He's in intensive care. My parents were at the front, with several company staff behind them, trying to calm things down. But some people had called the media. Reporters were already filming, ready to blow everything out of proportion. Then I saw it. A man in the crowd, gripping a knife. My stomach dropped. Dad, watch out! I darted forward, kicking the knife out of his hand before it could strike. The crowd erupted in chaos. It took ages to get the situation under control, but as soon as that was settled, a new group arrived. The factory workers, demanding unpaid wages. The company hadn't paid salaries in 2 months. We spent hours trying to calm them, promising explanations, solutions, anything. When everything finally quieted down, the office felt like a tomb. My father sat slumped in his chair, exhausted and defeated. My mother was quietly sobbing beside him. Then my father began to hit himself, again and again. It's all my fault. I'm useless. The company's going to collapse because of me. I rushed over, grabbing his arm. Dad, stop. It's not your fault. Tears streamed down his face. He wiped them away roughly and said, his voice trembling, we might have to file for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy. The word cut through me. Part of me thought maybe it was inevitable. Maybe it was even a relief. But then he whispered something else. A worthless son like me should go down and beg our ancestors for forgiveness. At once, my mind went blank with terror. My father had always seen the company as his life. If it was gone, he might really end his own. Dad, no. Please, wait. I'll go talk to Oscar. I'll beg him. Please. Don't do anything stupid. But he was lost in despair. Unable to hear me, he was already calculating. In his head, how to join the ancestors. Fear gripped my chest. Without thinking, I grabbed my bag, ran outside, and hailed a taxi straight to Oscar's company. Chapter 09. I want to see your vice president. The receptionist smiled politely. I'm sorry, ma'am. You need an appointment to see the executive. Reality is cruel like that. When Oscar and I were close, these same people who now sneered at me used to greet me warmly and escort me straight to the CEO's office. Now, I didn't even have the right to step inside the building. That's how society works. People worship the powerful and trample the weak. It's the law of survival. I tried to force my way in, but the security guards dragged me out. I need to see Oscar. Tell him to come out. One of them sneered. Our boss doesn't meet just anyone. I sank to the floor, powerless and ashamed, my body trembling with exhaustion and panic. Just then, Oscar's assistant, Cameron, happened to see me. He hesitated for a moment before saying quietly, Mr. Grant isn't here. He might be at home. Home. I rushed there at once, but even the servants who used to greet me with smiles now spoke to me in a detached, businesslike tone. The young master hasn't been back here lately. Of course not. Ever since things heated up with Gloria. He'd barely spent any time at this house. As I turned to leave, I noticed a flyer on the coffee table, an invitation for a new product launch event. I memorized the location. The next day, I searched online and found the details. Then I disguised myself and slipped into the venue unnoticed. When the launch ended, I waited near the exit, the only route Oscar would have to take. And sure enough, our eyes met. But his gaze was cold, detached. He didn't even pause. He turned to leave immediately. I reached out and blocked his way. Oscar. He turned his head slightly, his expression utterly indifferent. What do you want? I swallowed hard. Oscar, please, save our company. If he would just step in, just speak a word, all our crises could be resolved. Reason. The word stunned me. He'd never asked for a reason before. All my life, we'd lived under his family's protection. A reason? I had never needed one. My confidence faltered. For the sake of the years we grew up together? Oscar laughed softly. A sharp, cruel sound. For the sake of sentiment? You mean the services I paid for? Services. So that's how he saw it. All these years reduced to a transaction. My heart trembled. My fingers curled in on themselves, trembling slightly. For a second, I wanted to give up. But then my parents' pale, exhausted faces flashed before my eyes. I couldn't. I looked up at Oscar, tears welling, voice breaking. Please, help us. I'm scared my father will do something foolish. Oscar's lips twisted into a mocking smile. And what does that have to do with me? I'm done playing charity. Don't come to me again. I grabbed his sleeve desperately. His expression changed instantly, filled with disgust. He yanked my hand away so hard that my skin burned red from the friction. I have important matters to attend to. I suggest you don't test my patience. Then Cameron stepped between us, blocking my path. Oscar shoved his hands into his pockets and walked away without looking back. I stood there watching his retreating figure, my heart sinking deeper and deeper into darkness. I didn't even know how I made it out of that building. All I remember is the moment I stepped outside. A black van screeched to a halt beside me. Hands grabbed me, and I was dragged inside. Chapter 10. Half an hour later, the blindfold over my eyes was ripped off. My blurry vision slowly cleared, and when I finally saw who was standing in front of me, my brows knitted together. Sandra. Sandra looked down at me with an icy, cruel smile. Lily. Oh Lily, you don't have a protector anymore. Let's see how arrogant you can still be now. Her palm struck my face before I could react. Blood trickled from the corner of my mouth. Instinctively, I tried to fight back, but only then did I realize my hands and feet were tightly bound. I couldn't move. I glared up at her, fury burning in my chest. What do you want? Sandra threw her head back and laughed. Revenge. Of course. You laid your hands on me more than once. Remember? I'm not one to forgive and forget. Revenge is my specialty. I closed my eyes for a moment. There was no point resisting. I knew I wasn't getting out of this unharmed. Sandra's kicks and punches came in waves. Each one aimed precisely where it hurt most. Soon, my body was slick with cold sweat. And my breath came shallow, more air leaving me than entering. When I stopped reacting, Sandra grew bored. Tisk. Bullying you isn't even fun anymore. Why don't we play a little game instead? She crouched beside me, smiling. Call Oscar. If he comes to save you, I'll let you go. If he doesn't, well, that's not my fault, is it? Call Oscar? It had been so long since he last answered my calls. Would he even pick up? Sandra nodded to one of her men, and they loosened the ropes around my wrists and ankles. The moment I was free, I collapsed onto the floor like a rag doll. Go on, Sandra said coldly. Call him. If he still cares, you'll walk out of here alive. I didn't want to. I didn't want to humiliate myself again, but years of memories flooded my mind. His voice, his laughter, his broken promises. Despite everything, a part of me still hoped. Under Sandra's taunting gaze, I dialed his number. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. Then I tried messaging him. WeChat, QQ, even Alipay. Every possible way to reach him. Nothing. Only the endless beep 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 tone of rejection. Sandra clapped her hands mockingly. Oh, silly me. Today's my sister's birthday. Oscar must be busy preparing gifts and decorating the venue. How sweet, isn't it? So that's what he'd meant earlier. His important business. A birthday party. A hollow laugh escaped me. Tears spilling down my cheeks. Heh. The pain in my stomach from her earlier kick tightened into spasms. Sandra watched me struggle and smirked. Well, since you can't reach him, why don't I give it a try? She pulled out her phone and dialed Oscar's video call. Brother-in-law, she said sweetly. Are you busy? Oscar replied curtly. Lily wants to tell you something. At the mention of my name, Oscar frowned slightly, but said nothing. It was cruel. He ignored my calls, yet answered hers instantly. Sandra turned the phone toward me. I must have looked terrible, tear-streaked, blood on my lips, face pale and hollow. My voice trembled. Oscar, help me. Oscar's tone was calm, but sharp as a knife. Lily, what kind of trick are you trying now? I know your skills better than anyone. Sandra could never beat you. Even if something were wrong, don't bother me again. Behind him, I saw a rooftop draped in golden lights. An elegant party in full swing. Gloria stood at the center, radiant, surrounded by laughter. Oscar ended the call. Just like that, the last thread of hope in me snapped. Sandra clicked her tongue. Tisk. TSK. Pathetic. I lay there motionless, my body heavy, my heart completely hollow. Oscar, he was no longer the boy I once knew. Seeing I had no fight left, Sandra sighed dramatically. Boring. I have to get to my sister's birthday party anyway. Enjoy your night, Lily. She turned and walked away, but 5 burly men stayed behind, grinning wickedly, closing in on me. Their laughter echoed, and dread crawled slowly up my spine. Chapter 11. 3 years later, at the Oscar residence, my father was invited to attend the silver wedding anniversary of Oscar's parents. At events like this, he was in his element, smiling, flattering, bowing. A man perfectly trained for the art of survival. After finishing a toast to one of the prominent guests, he turned around and accidentally bumped into someone's back. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He looked up and froze. It was Oscar. Oscar spoke casually, almost as if by accident. Uncle. Oscar, please. You're too polite. Don't call me that. My father forced a smile, his instincts screaming at him to escape. He began to edge away, but Oscar's face darkened instantly. The air grew heavy. Stop. The command cracked like a whip. My father stiffened, turned back, and stood 1 meter away, forcing a respectful smile. Do you have any instructions for me? Oscar's tone was low, deliberate. Lily, before he could finish. My father cut him off hastily. Oscar, don't worry, I've already arranged her marriage. She'll never bother you again. Oscar froze for a second. Something inside him went eerily still. As if a piece of him had been hollowed out. His gaze turned razor sharp. Say that again. The pressure in his voice was suffocating. My father wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Rest assured. I've given her to someone else. She'll never trouble you again. Not in this lifetime. At the second repetition, Oscar's expression twisted. Without warning, he hurled his wine glass to the ground. It shattered into glittering shards. Wine splashing across the marble floor. Everyone nearby flinched in shock, taking advantage of the chaos. My father slipped away. That same night, he called me overseas. Sweetheart. I was half asleep when I answered. It was dawn where I was. My father rarely called at this hour. Dad? What's wrong? Lily, you must stay hidden. Don't come back. My heart skipped. What happened? He told me about the outburst. How Oscar smashed the glass in front of everyone. Meanwhile, in Oscar's study, Oscar stood before a group of technicians, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen. Through a small hidden device, our conversation, my father's voice, my own, played clearly through the speakers. Can you locate her? The lead technician frowned, typing rapidly. After a few 10 seconds, a series of electronic beeps sounded. Then, got it. Back in London. Sleep was impossible after the call. I got up and went to the window. It was nearly dawn. But the city was already alive. Cars rushing, neon lights flickering. Just like the sleepless nights in Beijing, memories came flooding back. That evening, 3 years ago, someone saved me. She recorded everything that happened. And I used that video to threaten Gloria. Sandra, after all, was just a pawn like me. The real power belonged to the heiress, Gloria. The one who controlled her entire family's standing in Beijing. I told Gloria, if you don't do as I say, I'll release the video, show the world what Sandra did to me. Once public opinion turns, your family's reputation in Beijing will be finished. And I added, the more you target my family, the more I'll cling to Oscar. I'll expose our childhood engagement and make sure the entire city mocks you. She had no choice but to yield. Gloria agreed to help stabilize our company. On one condition, I had to disappear. So I did. The day I left, Beijing was drowning in rain. Gloria, terrified that Oscar might discover I was gone, made an immediate investment in our family's business. Using it as a cover story, my parents attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Smiling for cameras under umbrellas, I stood apart, alone. That night, I boarded a plane to England. I didn't look back. Oscar had already shattered everything inside me. There was nothing left to mourn. Before I left, I told my parents to erase my records, change my name, cut all ties. And in that foreign land, I started to build a new life. From nothing. Chapter 12. Not long after I left, Oscar and Gloria got engaged. Their engagement ceremony was grand, a global live broadcast. Even overseas, I couldn't avoid seeing it. It was the same month I arrived in England. That's when I met Hudson. He was refined, intelligent, from a distinguished family, and quietly offered my parents and me a great deal of help. Over time, my parents met him several times across different countries. They were pleased and told him to take good care of me. Back then, the money Gloria gave had only temporarily saved our company. We still needed financial support afterward. Hudson helped my father settle those debts, ensuring the company would no longer face bankruptcy. All I wanted was for them to let us go. I was willing to spend my life abroad, never setting foot in that country again. At first, England felt unbearably lonely. I had no friends, no sense of direction, just silence and endless rain. But after a while, I noticed how much the British loved their tea. Breakfast tea, afternoon tea, high tea, farewell tea, work break tea. They drank tea for everything. So, I opened a small tea house with a Chinese theme. specializing in premium teas and traditional snacks. It was an unexpected success. One tea house became 2, then 3, until now. I have a chain across Europe and the US. At the same time, to help my family's company survive, I used my business network to become an international distributor. Introducing our products, yes, even spicy snack sticks, into Western supermarkets. Our family business finally began to turn a profit. After years of loss, life now is comfortable. I sat in my office, reviewing the financial reports. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. Busy? I looked up. Hudson stood there, holding an afternoon tea set. Not really. I stood, moved to the sofa, and took a light sip of tea. Then, I pulled an envelope from my bag and slid it across the table to him. He frowned slightly. What's this? Open it. Hudson tore it open. The contents made him pause. His expression darkened. Lily, must we really keep score like this? I smiled gently. Even siblings settle debts clearly. I want to pay back everything I owe you. That way, we can stand on equal ground. My business flourished because of you, and I'll always be grateful. I patted his shoulder lightly. Don't be upset. I feel lighter now. No debts. No burdens. Would you rather I keep carrying the weight forever? Hudson's refined features softened. Sensing it, I added playfully. Now that I'm finally free of debts, come on. Dinner's on me tonight, no matter how long I've lived abroad. My heart still belongs to Chinese cuisine. We went to a restaurant called Jizue, famous for its authentic dishes. The name means drunk with wine, full with virtue. The owner clearly loved Chinese culture. It was far from home, so we had never had the time to go before. Tonight, we finally did. We ordered a few classic dishes. Before eating, I excused myself. I'm going to the restroom for a minute. Stepping out of the private room, I asked a waitress. Excuse me, where's the restroom? She pointed down the opposite hallway. That way. Thank you. I followed the direction and soon came out. Wiping my hands, checking a message on my phone. When I looked up, someone was blocking my way. Still focused on the screen, I spoke politely. Excuse me, could you move, please? The person didn't move, didn't even flinch. A faint unease crept up my spine. I lowered my phone and raised my eyes. Chapter 13. For a moment, time stopped. The world around me blurred into silence and motionless air. Oscar and I stood there, frozen, somewhere deep inside. A scar I had thought long healed began to ache again. As if the old wound were splitting open from within, memories I had buried clawed their way to the surface. The calm lake of my heart rippled once more. I didn't even know how I made it back to the private room. What's wrong? You look pale. Did something happen in the restroom? Hudson's voice was full of concern. I forced a stiff smile. Nothing. I'm fine. He teased lightly. What? Don't tell me it's that time of the month? I couldn't help but laugh. You're overthinking. Eat before the food gets cold. I thought Oscar would have left by now, but when we stepped out of the room, he was there. Before I could react, Oscar's fist slammed straight into Hudson's face. Then another, and another. He was out of control, like a storm unchained. Stop it! I shouted, trying to pull him back. But he didn't even seem to hear me. With no choice left, I caught his arm mid-swing and hit him back. Hard, catching him off guard. Finally, he stopped, but then I saw the look on his face. That wounded, disbelieving expression, as if I were the one who had betrayed him. Was he serious? He beat someone half to death and still dared to look hurt. I ignored him, turning to Hudson instead. Are you all right? His face was a mess of bruises, but he forced a wry smile and shook his head. I'm fine. Come on, we're seeing a doctor. I supported Hudson and started to leave. Before stepping out, I glanced back at Oscar, ready in case he lunged again. He just stood there, eyes blood red, staring at me with 1,000 unsaid words. I didn't care. I walked away. That night, I thought it was over, but when I came home, Oscar was there, leaning against my door. My grip tightened on my purse. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I took a breath. What was I afraid of? I'd done nothing wrong. If you live honestly, you don't fear ghosts knocking at midnight. So I kept my face calm, unlocked the door under his gaze, stepped inside, and shut him out. Too tired to think, I collapsed onto my bed and fell asleep. The next morning, I opened the door, and a body fell forward into my apartment. I froze. It was Oscar. His face was pale, cold sweat covering his forehead. He was completely unconscious. I stood there, torn between impulse and reason. After a long moment, I knelt down, wanting to help him, but the moment my hand hovered near his arm, the pain from years ago, Sandra's beating, the helpless agony, flashed vividly through my body. The trauma made my whole frame tremble, and so, I pulled my hand back. Then, heartlessly, I kicked him out of the doorway. Bang! I shut the door, and walked away, leaving him sprawled outside, unconscious. I had no idea what game he was playing. And honestly, I didn't care. I had a new life now. Everything fit neatly into place. I was no longer that desperate girl who followed Oscar's every step, eager for scraps of his approval, whether he lived or died. It had nothing to do with me. But after that day, Oscar became like a ghost. Wherever I went, he was there. When I dined out, he stood by the restaurant window, at art galleries. He appeared at every corner. When I went to work, he waited outside my office building, and every night, without fail, he stood by my door. If Hudson and I appeared together, Hudson would end up getting beaten again, for 2 full months. This continued, and through it all, I never said a single word to Oscar. I thought it was a passing obsession, but I was wrong. Even his assistant, Cameron, watched me from afar, wanting to say something but holding back. People at work whispered. Neighbors avoided me, as if I were cursed, haunted by something unclean that refused to let me go. Chapter 14. That night, when I came home, Oscar wasn't there. I quietly exhaled, a small wave of relief washing through me. And yet, beneath that relief, there was something else, an odd, hollow sense of loss. Still, I went through my usual routine: unlock, enter, close the door, smooth and precise. I've always been a light sleeper. In the middle of the night, half dreaming, I suddenly heard the faint click of a lock. Instantly, my nerves tensed. In the darkness, I slipped out of bed, grabbed a wooden stick, and hid behind the sofa. A tall figure was ransacking my living room, searching drawers, opening cupboards. He stepped into the bedroom, found the bed empty, and stiffened. My heart pounded so loud it drowned my breath. I thought maybe I could pay them off, but judging by his movements, that wasn't going to work. He began searching for me, with nowhere left to retreat. I attacked first, catching him off guard. I swung the stick hard into his back. He shouted, turned, and lunged at me. Only then did I realize he wasn't alone. 2 men, both over 6 feet tall. Even with my martial arts training, facing 2 armed men was overwhelming. One of them pulled out a short knife, its blade glinting cold under the streetlight. I squinted against the reflection, and in that instant of distraction, one of them kicked me hard to the ground. He aimed the knife at me. I rolled, barely dodging the strike, but exhaustion hit fast. Soon, one of them pinned my hands behind my back, while the other raised the knife again. I shut my eyes. Then, bang! The door crashed open. Oscar stormed in, kicking the man with the knife clear across the room. I seized the moment to break free. Together, we fought the 2 intruders off, subduing them until the police arrived. After giving our statements, we collapsed onto the sofa, both drained. I was about to break the silence and thank him, but before I could, Oscar slid off the couch, collapsing to the floor, unconscious. Outside the hospital room, Cameron looked weary. Miss Lily, Mr. Oscar hasn't eaten or slept properly for months. His body's completely run down. Actually, before he could finish, A doctor called for family. I walked inside. Oscar lay there, pale and fragile. My chest tightened. How are you feeling? He gave me a faint smile, the same gentle smile from years ago. It's nothing serious. Then, softly, let me peel you an apple. I froze. It was just something I'd said out of habit. But he'd always hated apples. Still, I sat beside him and began to peel. The room was quiet except for the sound of the knife scraping fruit. When the apple was gone, awkwardness filled the air again. I glanced at my watch. If you're busy, you can go, he said. I didn't hesitate. All right, then I'll go. As the door closed behind me, I caught a glimpse through the glass. His smile fading, his lips lowering in quiet despair. But Oscar, this isn't my fault. Everyone must bear the weight of their own choices. I thought he'd stay in the hospital for a few days, but the next evening, he was back, standing outside my door again. This time, I let him in. Oscar, what do you want from me? After 2 relentless months, I couldn't imagine what he was still clinging to. He pressed his lips together, his face less pale but still weak. His voice broke slightly. Then, quietly, I just missed you. Missed me? I frowned. I didn't understand what he meant. And I didn't want to, so I changed the subject. You married Gloria, didn't you? He froze. Before he could answer, I went on. You probably have children by now. Oscar looked at me. You don't read the news, do you? I shook my head. No, my life is good now. I like things peaceful. I have a new circle, a new world, one untouched by the past. Oscar gave a faint, bitter smile. So there's nothing, and no one, left for you back home? I met his gaze, and said, very clearly, no. Chapter 15. That day, Oscar left like a lost soul. His back looked desolate, lonely, like mine had once been when I left the country years ago. But this time, there was no shared sorrow. People must live in the present. Oscar stopped appearing like a ghost in my life. Peace returned, finally. Thinking of Hudson, a faint guilt pricked my chest, because Oscar would attack him on sight. I'd asked Hudson to stay away during those months. Now that Oscar was gone, I brought a gift and went to visit him. From afar, I saw him arguing with a woman. My brows furrowed. I stopped the car and got out. As I approached, I heard words like liar and shameless. Emma? After all these years, she hadn't changed at all. Emma turned, surprised to see me. Lily. I looked from her to Hudson, then back. You two know each other? They said nothing, which was answer enough. What are you arguing about? Emma shot Hudson a glare. He immediately looked away, guilt flashing across his face. Inside Hudson's living room. Lily, how have you been all these years? Pretty good. That's good. She smiled faintly. I've always wanted to thank you for saving my life back then. Back then, when Sandra left me surrounded by 5 men. Intentions obvious. Emma was the one who barged in at the last second and saved me. She had pretended to side with Gloria's family. And the place where I'd been kidnapped, she was the one who found it. Emma had installed hidden cameras in advance, recording every second of Sandra's violence. That video was what I later used to threaten Gloria, forcing her to back off. After I spoke, Emma's smile turned strained. Actually, it was all Oscar's doing. I froze. What? Oscar? What did this have to do with Oscar? Back then, when I begged him for help, he told me not to bother him. Emma went on. Oscar only pretended to ally with Gloria's family. It was part of his plan to avenge you. Her family comes from the underworld. The men who kidnapped you were hers. Her words hit me like cold wind. That kidnapping, the nights that followed, I'd been sick for an entire year afterward. Afraid of the dark, afraid of people, afraid of touch. Back then, it was Oscar who stayed by my side, day and night, telling me, don't be afraid. It's all over now. I'll make sure they pay for this. I promise. My chest tightened, like someone had stuffed cotton inside. A heaviness I couldn't breathe through. All those years ago. A childish promise. And he actually kept it? Emma was the one Oscar had planted in Gloria's family. And even Hudson. Emma's next words made my blood run cold. That bastard. He didn't even respect his friend's trust. Oscar only asked him to look after you. But instead, he fell for you. He changed his name, erased his past, hid you away from everyone, even Oscar. Oscar lost track of you for years because of him. I remembered, back then, afraid that Oscar might find me. I'd cut off contact. No phone calls from home, barely any communication, and when I did call, I used public phones. I turned to Hudson. Is it true? His lips pressed tightly together, guilt flickering in his eyes. I'm sorry, but my feelings for you were real. No wonder Oscar punched him every time they met. They were all the same. I looked at Emma again. And you, what's your connection to Hudson? She rolled her eyes. Him? He's my runaway mother's stepson, leaving Hudson's house. My thoughts spun in chaos. Enemies weren't enemies. Friends weren't friends. The lines blurred, leaving emptiness in their place. As I walked across the plaza, watching the scattered crowd under the warm afternoon sun, I felt a strange, dreamlike detachment, as though the world had shifted again, unable to hold back my curiosity. I opened my phone and searched the news about Oscar and Gloria. Chapter 16. Hashtag elite marriage collapsed. Hashtag scandal shocks wealthy family. Hashtag collusion with drug cartel and money laundering. Hashtag fraud ring with protection from northern Myanmar. Hashtag family empire bankrupt. Hashtag criminal network arrested. Each headline blazed across the front pages, all dated 2 months ago. And yet, I still couldn't forgive Oscar. Why was Emma told everything, but not me? Why did he choose to protect me through deception and cruelty, when he could have simply told me the truth? We could have fought side by side, but instead, he left me in the role of a pitiful bystander. A woman burdened with gratitude she never wanted. Hurting in the name of love. Is that what Oscar thought love was? Even after learning the truth, nothing in my life changed. I still woke up early, went to work, ate, came home, slept, the same 3-point routine, until one day, I received a package. Inside was a set of equity transfer papers and a property gift agreement. Oscar had transferred all his company shares to me and given me every movable and immovable asset under his name. I froze in disbelief. What was he trying to do? I wanted to contact him, but I didn't even have his number. So I called my father. He hesitated, his tone unusually heavy. Lily, maybe you should come back. Go see Oscar. I frowned. My father, who once told me to never return, was now asking me to visit Oscar? What happened to him? A long sigh came from the other end. He's young, but he's been diagnosed with a terminal illness. He's stopped treatment. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. The papers in my hand felt like they were burning through my skin. It took me hours, days, maybe, to convince myself I had to return them, at the very least. I needed to face him one last time. I flew home. When I arrived at his house, Oscar wasn't there. Instead, his mother greeted me, taking my hand gently. Lily, it wasn't Oscar's fault. He had no choice. Gloria's family had their eyes on ours. If we fought them head-on, none of us would have survived. You and Oscar were truly engaged since childhood. But as long as you stayed, Gloria's family would never let you go. Sending you away was the only way to protect you. After you left, Oscar fought them in silence, matching wits, trading blows, until he finally won. Her voice trembled as she went on. The government wanted to take down Gloria's family, but for political balance, and to avoid stirring anti-national factions, they couldn't act publicly, so they turned to Oscar, and he agreed, gladly. It gave him a reason to destroy them from within. The only unpredictable factor was you. Once you were safe, he had no more fears holding him back. I handed her the documents, the shares, the assets, everything. Please, give these back to him. She shook her head. These belong to Oscar. I can't undo what he decided. And even if I could, I wouldn't dare. Her eyes glistened with restrained grief. He left them for you, Lily. That's something no one can take away. Chapter 17. Oscar's mother led me into his study, walls lined with shelves, every inch covered in my photographs. No one could ever claim he didn't love me. He's sick now, she said softly. He's hidden himself away. We can't find him anywhere. Her voice broke, a low sob escaping. You've searched everywhere? She nodded, tearfully. Every place we could think of. He's vanished. Maybe he knows he doesn't have long, so he found a quiet place to hide. To slip away unnoticed. Her words stung. My throat tightened. I had only one thought left, to find him, to give everything back. I couldn't bear the weight of what he'd left me. Pacing the room, I searched for any clue to where he might go. Nothing, only my pictures. And, oddly, a single photo of a pyramid. A sudden spark flashed in my memory, when I'd been kidnapped as a child. Terrified and half-conscious. I'd once told him, Oscar, if I die, make me into a mummy. Then when you miss me, you can come visit me. He had scolded me back then. Don't say stupid things. You won't die. If you do, we'll die together, and I'll make us both mummies. We'll stay together forever. If his feelings had been that deep, then of course, he wouldn't want me to learn of his death without comfort. Would he actually want to turn himself into a mummy? I boarded a plane to Egypt, that ancient, mysterious land. Modern Egyptians no longer mummify the dead, but a few old workshops still preserve the craft. I searched from city to city, following faint traces of rumor and tradition, and finally, in one secluded workshop once reserved for royalty, I found him. I pushed open the wooden door. In the quiet courtyard, a wicker chair creaked gently in the breeze. I stepped closer, and there he was, lying back with his eyes closed. Peaceful as if asleep, tears rushed to my eyes. I stormed toward him, shouting through sobs, Oscar, you coward! You get sick and your first instinct is to hide? Is that what a man does? You dump your company on me, wreck my peace, and now you plan to disappear again? Oscar slowly opened his eyes. Stunned to see me standing there, he stayed silent, listening as I scolded him. Do you even know how ugly mummies are? I like handsome, living men, not shriveled corpses. Go die somewhere else if you must. He blinked, uncertain, then muttered cautiously. Then, should I freeze myself on Mount Everest instead? I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. I don't like the dead. I like the living, the ones who breathe, laugh, move, full of life. In the end, I dragged him back to Beijing. Chapter 18. On the plane, I asked, so you really went to Egypt, because of what I said as a kid, that I wanted to be a mummy if I died? Oscar nodded seriously. I groaned. Oh, for heaven's sake. That was when I was little. I didn't know mummies were so hideous. Oscar stared at me earnestly. As long as the body's preserved, the soul can return. I stared back, speechless. So he really meant to preserve his body, so that his soul could come back to find me? It was eerie, but heartbreakingly sincere. Can't we just live well, separately? You're an adult now, stop making people worry. I glared at him, exasperated. He blinked like a scolded puppy. Looking pitiful, I sighed. He was still sick, after all, but I still didn't know what he was sick with. What exactly is your illness? Is it really incurable? Do you really have to die? He hesitated, mumbling. That irritated me. Can you speak like a man for once? What disease is it? Stop mumbling like a child. Finally, he blurted out, breast cancer. I froze. I must have misheard. What? He repeated, clearly this time, breast cancer. I stared at him, speechless, turned my gaze away, embarrassed. Quietly, I pulled out my phone. And yes, men could get breast cancer. It could be triggered by prolonged stress, emotional strain, years of repression. So that's how he got it. Back in China, I arranged the best doctors, the best hospital. Before the surgery, Oscar gripped my hand tightly. Lily, wait for me to come out. I tried to lighten the moment. You'd better come out alive. If you die, I'll spend your money on younger men. Oscar gave a weak, wounded smile. I won't give you the chance. The doors to the operating room closed, separating us, 2 worlds apart. I still hadn't forgiven him completely, but forgiveness could wait. He needed to live first. Because if he died, all debts would die with him. If he lived, I could make him pay for every bit of pain he'd caused. While waiting, I dozed off. In my dream, we were children again. Lily, you have to be my little follower forever. Stay with me for life. I giggled. You stay with me for life. Or I stay with you for life. What's the difference? Oscar scratched his head. I guess there's no difference. Either way, it's forever. I nodded firmly. Exactly. So you'll be my follower for life. He thought about it, then smiled. All right. Forever.